with the wind really fueled the fire, allowed it to get really hot, and got up in the canopy and killed a lot of those trees back in there. Whereas the fire on the left was burning against the wind, it didn't get as hot, and it just burned the understory or ground layer. If you remember the signpost that's pointing out in the canal right there, that's the boundary marker for the wilderness area. So what that means is we're not allowed to do anything past that sign to manage the swamp. We're not allowed to do anything that will harm or benefit the swamp in any way. And so before the fire, so we're problems with bear and cougar attacking their livestock. They've been used, but they upgraded to a higher tech tower closer to the park. I'll point that out to you on the way back. There's a gator there.
Oh yeah, yeah. See. Wow.
Okay, so this thing right here is called a peat blowup, and it's produced by the same process as the tannic acid, where it was made by the decaying vegetation in the water. And as the vegetation decays, it's being broken down by microbes and bacteria, and those release methane gas in the process. And over time, that methane gas will produce so much pressure that it'll force the peat, which is sitting on the bottom of the swamp floor, to come up to the surface. And so this whole thing is just floating here.
Wow.
And this is why we're called the Okefenokee. And when we left, I told you there was about 70 islands made of peat. So that's the stuff right here. And this is what the Indians would walk across when they came here. And when they walked on this stuff, it'd move underneath their feet, and they'd call it Okefenokee, or land of the trembling earth. Now this one is so young and so thin that if we try to walk on it, we'd probably fall right through in some of the places. But they do get thicker over time, and eventually the whole thing will become covered with grasses and other vegetation. Those will die each year, putting down another layer of peat, and they'll send up a new generation year after year. At this stage, they can float around and move with the current and be pushed by the wind and fuse with other peat blowups or peat islands. And through later stages of succession, you'll start to get shrubs and bushes and eventually trees growing on these. And those trees will send a root down the floor of all the peat and vegetation surrounding the trees and leave the trees standing. And that's why it looks like a lot of these trees are growing right up out of the water. And a lot of them got started on something like this, and then the peat has since been burned away. And this is why I say that the swamp is fire dependent, because without fire for thousands and thousands of years, our swamp would become a cypress forest. And all the water in the swamp would either drain out through the two rivers, evaporate, or become transpired, and all the vegetation growing on these blow-ups popping up all over the place. So the fire's needed basically to keep the swamp rejuvenated, keeps the blow-ups burned away, and keeps the waterways open. And then the ash from the fire will help raise the pH a little bit, kind of like what's going on with the bass right now. At the same time, though, these blow-ups are very important for a lot of animals, like the alligators and turtles. They'll come bask on this stuff. The wading birds will come land on it and hunt for fish. And also you can see the butterflies like it. So it's a very intricate system. if you were just floating by here. And the hollow tree is a pretty important landmark in the swamp, so once you've come to it, you know you've got a choice to make. You can either keep going straight here for about another half a mile or so, and it'll get you to Billy's Island, and there's a dock there you can dock up at, and a nature trail that loops around. You can see some of the old relics from the logging company. Or you can make a left turn at the hollow tree like we just did, and go up Minnie's Run. And right now in a canoe, in one of our motorboats, you can't go any further than we're about to go. But in a canoe or a kayak, you can still go all the way up to Waycross and do an overnight trip.
Good Lord.
Big old turtle. You'd be able to go up here 8 or 9 more miles to big water, just like the open prairie like you would see on the east side. Because of low water, we've had to cut it off right here. But in a canoe or kayak or a private boat, you can still go